let's get into it. We're gonna break down all of the new talents because if you didn't know, whoa, I got some info for you. We got some new talents, and we got, well, they're not exactly leaks because the developers put on some Twitch streams about them and showcased the new talents coming in Chapter 2 for Spellbreak. So today, we're just going to run through all of the new talents and talk about them, mind, body, and spirit, and talk about, what are the pitfalls to avoid in these new talents? What are the good talents? Maybe some builds, a build for each class, something like that. We'll just run through them, and then we'll get a little hyped, I think, for Chapter 2, because Chapter 2 is on the way, and yeah, it might already be here by the time you're watching this. And I think there are some really cool talents in here, and there are some nice omissions from the talent pool, from the talents that we had previously, and there are some nice inclusions and some nice switch arounds and mix ups and stuff like that. So some interesting things have happened with the talents. So let's hop into it. Let's freaking do it. All right, so here are the new talents. Here are all of them. They're all right here. Nice. So let's start with the mind talent, and you'll see, so now there's talents are even structured a little different than they were before. So before we had 1, 2, and 3 point talents. You had a pool of 6 talent points to pick from. You could pick one talent from each category. That's how you filled up your talent pool, right? So now there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 point talents, but you have a pool of 7 points to pick from for your talents. So a small change there, but we have these, a different sort of system, but it's basically similar to what we knew, but some variations here. So we'll start with mind, and we'll start with the 1 point talent right there. We'll just go across the screen because what other way is there to do it? We got intelligent, and that's the first talent that we're talking about. And all of these 1 point talents are actually really nice little buffs. I think they're all pretty good. They give you a little something, and they're a nice little pickup. You might imagine that, like, instead of just wasting a talent and not having a talent here, it's nice if you're running like, a 3-3-1, to have that one cost talent just give you a little something that you wouldn't otherwise have. So intelligent is nice. It reduces your rune cooldown by 5, 10, 15, and 25%. And that's nice. It works with some of the other skills in here as well, but just having a faster rune cooldown it's just a good benefit to you all the time. You get to use your rune faster, and then with that you can kind of like mess up other people's timing, right? When they're kind of timing down your rune, you'll be able to use it just a little bit faster than they might be expecting you to, which might throw some people off, and you might get some nice outplays that way. So intelligent is just a good rune. We'll talk about different rune setups and stuff as we go here, but as I said, it's just a good rune. Going into the 2 point talents, we have Spellslinger and Curious. So Spellslinger is similar to what we saw to the Mind talent, Spellslinger, that we had in the previous patch. And I think it's been buffed a little bit. I think the sorcery cooldowns were buffed a little bit. I might be wrong on that, but regardless, it does the same thing, right? You can store extra gauntlets or runes in your inventory, and you can also store your sorcery cooldowns. And your sorcery cooldown is reduced by a percentage as well. So Spellslinger is nice. It works better on some classes than on others. It was at least sort of like class dependent and sort of like situational. You really had to adapt your playstyle to Spellslinger to get the most out of it in the past. I think actually, as we go through this, you might see that there are going to be a lot more builds that include Spellslinger, not because it's optimal, but just because of how things fall into place, and basically because the next talent that we're going to talk about, Curious, is the first talent on this list that I think is just not good. And it's a bit of a pitfall. It's a bit of a trap, to be honest. Curious, here's what I'll say. I don't know what the new game mode looks like yet. I'm trying to think about what the game mode will look like that makes Curious genuinely good. Because, you know, it's a nice little support ability. You get an increased chance to find extra scrolls, and every time you read a scroll, you get a better chance to find more scrolls. And then your scroll speed is increased by 100%. So that's nice. Your scroll speed is increased by 100%. That's not bad, especially if you're in a team mode. Then finding extra scrolls is not a bad thing. You know, you can spread it around your team. There's a little bit of weird math where, like, every time you find a scroll for mind, then you're more likely to find more scrolls. So you'll fill up your scrolls really fast, and then, you know, then you have this talent. So basically, once you've read all your scrolls, right, and you filled up all your scrolls, this talent becomes useless. It doesn't do anything else for you, right? Which is like the first part of the trap, is that it doesn't do anything for you. And the second thing is that it really doesn't do anything for you in combat. Like, yeah, sure, if you're playing a support role in your team and there's no other option, you know, for whatever build you're doing that you're really going to take advantage, you know, you don't think you're going to take advantage of Intelligent or Spellslinger. I mean, I would just say, like, there's benefit to Spellslinger even if you don't store an extra gauntlet or an extra rune in your inventory, right? Like, just the sorcery cooldown itself, the reduced sorcery cooldown is beneficial no matter what. In Intelligent, the rune cooldown decreased, like, that's just beneficial no matter who you are, what you're doing. That's always beneficial. Both those things are always beneficial, like, no matter what. So I just think Curious, there's a little bit of use for it, but I really don't think that you need that as you're going through the HoloLands. I mean, you know, it's not that hard to get your scrolls, and I just don't think that it's worth the 2 points sinking into it. Maybe if it was a 1 point talent and that's all you had, you know, you boost Intelligent up a little bit, it would have to do a little bit more, you know, and then it would break sort of like the balance of those 1 point talents. But I just think, you know, at least personally, I'm going to be staying very, very far away from Curious. I think it's a trap, and I don't think it's a very good spell, or it's a very good talent, because it doesn't give you anything in combat, and once you've used its abilities, then it's just done. It doesn't give you anything like into the match. Once you're out of the phase of reading scrolls, and once you've kind of like finished with that, then it's useless and it's wasteful. So that's what I would say there. Moving on to the 3 point talents. Our first one is my main man, Tracking. This is definitely one of the underutilized talents in the current meta for talents, but a talent that I use all the time, especially on Pyromancer and Conduit. Tracking is one of my go-tos. I love the outplay potential that you have with Tracking, and it's 3 points now, which is sort of similar to, you know, being 2 points in the last meta. It's like sort of like that, but they buffed it, so you can track people for even longer now. I think the old numbers for this were, you know, you got the red outline on your target. Once you hit them, it would outline them for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that. It was between 2 and 6 seconds. I forget what the middle numbers exactly were, but it was, you know, with no scrolls read, it was 2 seconds. With all your scrolls read, it was 6 seconds. Well, now it's 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds. So, I mean, 10 seconds is a really long amount of time. That, like, in Spellbreak, in combat, being able to track someone just because you hit them once with one lightning bolt, or, you know, one wind shear, or you know, the AoE of one fireball with combust, like 10 seconds is really, really long. And being able to track someone and knowing exactly where they are, so that when you're pushing into them, you know exactly what angle you have to fire at, what angle you have to protect yourself from, is a huge benefit. And I think it's kind of sad, because I think we're gonna see a lot of builds that utilize tracking now based on this meta, and I liked being the only one in the lobby with tracking. It gave me a huge advantage. So now I think we're going to see tracking a lot more with this buff. You know, that red outline also extends to your teammates, and it still extends to your teammates, by the way. So, I mean, especially in team comps, I think tracking is going to be much more utilized, and that's good. I think tracking is a great skill. we'll see, you know, if everyone is using it, how balanced it remains to be. I think no one really used it before, and so it felt sort of balanced. But if everyone's using it, it might cause for some frustrating things. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. And then the next 3-point talent in the mind category is another really good one. I really like this one. So it seems like Harmony is gone now, and it's replaced with a talent called Hardened. Hardened makes you immune to ignition and corrosion. So, you know, the pyromancer's ability or, you know, fire's ignition and toxic's corrosion. It makes you immune to both of those, which is good because that's an that sort of, it's funny how, you know, you have tracking in this category and then you have hardened, which is like the opposite of tracking, because ignite and corrosion are both ways to track your opponents, right? You get that tick over time that allows you to track where exactly they are. If you're immune to that, then you deny your opponents that damage. You also deny them that information. So that's kind of nice, and it also shortens the duration when you are frozen and shocked. So this is sort of like a replacement for Harmony. It functions differently. You know, Harmony used to make you immune to like shock and frozen and stuff. Now you can always be slowed in whatever situation. So whether you're standing in like a tox puddle or you're in the area, a cold effect that would slow you, you can always be slowed, and you can be frozen and shocked, but the duration for which you are frozen or shocked has been reduced by, you know, 35%, 50%, 75%, 90%. So you're going to be frozen for half the amount of time that you would otherwise. That's still, you know, I mean, if you get frozen as a Frostborn main, I'm still going to be able to freeze people. I'm going to be able to freeze everyone. And it's still going to be satisfying. I'm still going to be able to get my shots off on them, which is awesome, because Frostborn was in this weird place where, you know, Harmony wasn't really meta for most people. Didn't run Harmony, and therefore, you know, one of Frostborn's key abilities in being able to freeze people was viable. But once someone had Harmony, Frostborn's usefulness just fell off a cliff. Like, it was so much harder to play against someone with Harmony. So this way, Frostborns still maintain a lot of their power across the board against everyone, and but everyone gets a good benefit. I think this is a great talent and something that will be in a lot of builds as well. I think you'll see, especially because of how situational and how like kind of fringe Spellslinger is and how utterly useless Curious is, I think you're going to see a lot of builds that have 3 points in mind.
You're my dad. Boogie, boogie, boogie.
Oh my god. Tuka. Heckin, thanks so much. I'm using your thing right now. Guys, this is Heckin's little diagram. What spreadsheet thing, image that he conjured out. So Heckin, thanks for subscribing. And yeah, I found it. It's in my Discord. If any of you guys want to go have a look at it, you can hop into the Discord. Links down below, and you can check out this image that showcases all of the talents in there. But yeah, I think a lot of builds are going to be using the 3-point mind talents. I think those are both really good ones, and it seems they might just fall into the meta, based on, you know, a couple different things. Moving on to 4-point talents, we got one good and one bad one. So Rebirth is basically just been renamed from Vitalstone. If you guys don't know anything about the lore, I make some lore videos on this channel every now and then. You can, you know, hang out in this channel to catch some bits of lore as we go along, and check that out. But Vital Stones are significant in the lore of this game. They're kind of like the Philosopher's Stone from Harry Potter, where, you know, there was this stone that Dumbledore, I mean, spoilers, but it's like Harry Potter, so where Dumbledore like put it, you know, he connected to the stone or whatever, and it extended his life. I forget exactly how it worked, but that's basically what happened, right? The Philosopher's Stone is like, or the Sorcerer's Stone, depending on where in the world you're from. It extended his life like for a long time. Well, that's basically the premise of this game, is that breakers, you know, vow breakers, that's what the player characters in this game, what we're breakers. When we have these vital stones, and that allows us, when we are disrupted by the spell storm or by other breakers in the Hollowlands, our vital stones sort of allow us to to like collect our essence back to where they from. So in that way, it's kind of like a phylactery, like a lich would have. If you guys are like D&D nerds or anything like that. But it also extends your life in a weird way, which is how it connects to like the Harry Potter thing. But that's basically how breakers can function in the Hollowlands, is that they have these vital stones that allow their essence to continue on even though they, you know, died a storm or whatever. And that's like the mythology of Spellbreak a little bit. So I think it's, you know, from a lore perspective, I think it's nice that they've distanced themselves from Vital Stone, because Vital Stone is a very impressive, cool thing in the game and in the lore, but actually in the game it kind of sucked, and it still sucks. So that's a long way to say that Rebirth is the new brand for Vital Stone is still bad, and don't use it. Nice. Who knows how it's gonna work out in new game mode. Of course, that's kind of something in the back of my mind for all of these, is that, like, you know, we have this new game mode that we don't know much about. What talents are going to be really useful in the new game mode that aren't necessarily useful in the BR or Clash? So something to think about with all of these. You know, I'll hold back a little bit of judgment because of that, but Vital Stone, I can pretty much guarantee, is, even with the buffs that it received right here, is not going to be that good. So when you resurrect, you don't have 10, 20, 30, or 40 health when you come back, depending on how many scrolls you've read. Now you have 20, 30, 40, 50. So you have 10 more health per scroll that you read, that you come back with. Of course, you can activate multiple rebirths in between scroll readings. So if you activate Rebirth, you read a scroll, your rebirth resets. So you can get it like up to 4 times in a match, which is sort of like an interesting tidbit. But that amount of health, you know, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're immune for 4 seconds after you resurrect, and your run speed is increased by 25% while you are immune for those 4 seconds. That's something that was that was a buff that was put into Vital Stone in the previous patch, that increased run speed, and now you get a health bonus, and, you know, and now it's renamed to Rebirth. Here's my thing on Rebirth. I mean, it's just, you're a sitting duck when you get out. Yeah, maybe sometimes you'll be able to get away, especially if, you know, the person that you're fighting gets third partied. It allows you to sneak away if you have some teammates who are able to, you know, act as a buffer. It allows you to sneak away. You get another life. But a lot of the time, you're just a sitting duck, and this is another trap. You know, honestly, like we were talking about Curious before, Rebirth feels like another trap, and is just not worth it. What I would do to make Rebirth potentially maybe viable is just to allow the use of runes while you're immune, while you're the glowy golden person. 4 seconds after you go. I don't really see why you can't use runes in that time. You know, that would just allow you to actually be able to maybe get away from people, which would be the whole point of this. I think it would actually become pretty strong, and it would be pretty frustrating to fight against if that were the case. But it's useless, or like, it's just a bad talent as it is. So, you know, my opinion on Rebirth is, you know, either allow for the use of runes and make it viable, but maybe really annoying for other breakers, or just take it out. Just don't have it as an option, because it's just, you know, it's kind of like a meme for new players, and it's kind of like, it's a meme design. It's like, you know, it's not worth it. So I don't know. I would do one of those things, but Rebirth, I mean, new Vital Stone is not really worth it. But we do have a nice talent in the mind category. The last talent, a 4-pointer in the mind category, is Runic Fluency. Runic Fluency used to be worth 2 points, now it's worth 4. So that's a big upgrade there. And I think it's fair that it got this, I guess, nerf by increasing the amount that it costs so much. I don't think the numbers are very different. You know, you still get 1 rune charge, and, you know, your rune cooldown goes down 5, 7, 10, 15%. But now it costs 4 points, which I think is fair. Runic Fluency is very useful. You'll see there are some other talents in here that buff it and make it even more viable in specific ways. That, you know, there's some nice cohesion in some of the other talents. So I think Runic Fluency, you'll see a lot of builds. I don't know how many 4-point talents will actually be in the meta right now, looking at them, because it's over half of your pool, right, that you can use. You got 7 points, that's 4. You only have 3 for 2 slots. You know, but you will definitely see some Runic Fluency builds. I don't know how many other 4-point talent builds there will be out there. All right, guys, that was it for all of the Mind talents. Thanks for watching along. I hope that this helped you kind of sort the new talents in your head as we head into Chapter 2. Next time, we'll be talking about all the body talents that we go through, and I'll catch you then. Sound good? All right. See you guys there. Do it, and then we'll be on the other side of it, and we'll be like, wow, remember when I did that? And I'll be like, I do. We'll be like, whoa, remember when segment on stream? And I'll be like, hell yeah, segment on stream for sure. All right.